Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. We welcome you to this year's Board of Ed Candidate Forum sponsored by the Clinton PTA and the Morgan Political Club. It is our pleasure this evening to provide a forum for these candidates to share with the voting public their position on topics, their passion for being or wanting to be a board member, and we really appreciate their candor in joining us this evening. As our first part, we're going to have a brief ballot explanation that has been provided by Karen Marsden, our town clerk, that is going to be transcribed or shared with you by Carrie Adler, our PTA.
Hi, I'm Carrie Adler. Welcome. So I'm just going to go through a little description of how the process works. So there are 4 Board of Ed seats up for election. Each party may nominate up to 4 candidates for its party line. The public may cast their vote for any of the 4 candidates regardless of the candidate's party's affiliation. This does not need to be along party lines. You can vote for 3 Democrats and 1 Republican, or 2 Republicans and 1 Democrat, or any of the combination up to a total of 4 candidates. For example, there are 6 candidates this year. There are 2 Republican, 3 Democrat, and 1 third party line, which happens to be unaffiliated. After the election results are returned, Karen Marsden counts the winners. The highest 2 vote-getting Democrats get put back into the pool of candidates, and the remaining Democratic candidates are out of consideration for the open Board of Education seats. Then, the 2 highest Democrats, plus the remaining candidates, become the pool from which the town clerk selects the winners. The 4 highest vote-getting candidates in the pool wins a Board of Education seat regardless of the party affiliation. These are just a few for your information points. The unaffiliated candidate will carry that party designation with him. Were that candidate to win, he would remain unaffiliated. Any written-in candidate will carry their party designation. The third party is just a committee at this point. These elections are governed by Section 3-5 of the Clinton Charter and CGS Section 9-204A. 2 years ago was a swing year. There was a vacancy on the Board of Ed for which 1 Republican and 1 Democratic candidate ran. The Republican dropped out of the race and the Democrat took the 2-year vacancy seat. The mechanics of the Board of Education elections won't change unless the Clinton Charter is changed, which won't happen for at least 3 years from now. The Charter calls for review every 5 years, and it is in mid-process at this point. Thank you, and I hope this helps your understanding, and it's my pleasure to introduce tonight's moderator, Ian Barron.
Good evening and welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to this year's Board of Education Forum. I'm pleased to introduce tonight's candidates: Kimberly Buckley, Ethelene DiBona, Mike Giordano, Ray Moore, Annalise Spaziano, and Timothy Wininger. Each candidate is now provided with 3 minutes to address the audience with a brief summary. Starting with Ms. Buckley.
Hello, my name is Kim Buckley. I've lived in Clinton most of my life. I grew up here, graduated from Morgan, and I even married my high school sweetheart, who's in the audience. We were away from Clinton for a few years while he completed his medical residency, and we returned here to raise our family a little over 12 years ago. I'm running for re-election to the Board of Education because I want to continue the work I started 18 months ago when I was appointed to fill the vacancy left when Jerry Lee stepped down from the board. As one of only 2 candidates with both a background in education and a child in the Clinton Public Schools, I know I provide an important and valuable perspective as a member of the Board of Education. Education is my passion. I've been a teacher for over 10 years, and as a teacher and parent, I am immersed in the world of education, a world that is quite literally changing every day. The first of the many changes that will impact our children is the implementation of the new Common Core state standards, a new, more rigorous set of standards that's changing what our children learn and how they're taught. A second fundamental and significant change is the new standardized test called the Smarter Balanced Assessment, or SBAC, which we're replacing the CMT and CAPT as of this year for most subjects and grade levels. This test is taken by all students at all levels on a computer and requires our children to demonstrate that they can apply the skills required by the Common Core standards. As a teacher, I have the background and knowledge necessary to make sure our students are being prepared to meet these and the many other challenges headed their way. And as a parent, I can see the impact of these changes on our children firsthand. I have three main priorities for the board. The first of these is to ensure that as a district, we're meeting the needs of all of our children. As we move toward increased standardization, we cannot lose sight of the individual child. Secondly, we need to do a better job of engaging our community. We need to take advantage of the tremendous resources we have here in Clinton by getting our community involved in our schools and our schools more engaged with our community. Strong schools and a strong community, am I done?
No, keep going.
Thanks. Strong schools and a strong community go hand in hand. Lastly, we need to do both of those things with an eye toward the bottom line. We can't underfund our schools and expect excellence, but excessive spending isn't the answer either. We need to fund the programs that work, cut the ones that don't, and cut and control costs as much as we possibly can. In closing, by re-electing me to the Board of Education, Clinton can be certain that our community has the local awareness and educational experience we need on the Board of Education for our schools and our children to be successful. Thank you.
Thank you.
I forgot to tell you that we have a timekeeper here in the center.
Thanks.
What did we say? The green is 1 minute, the yellow is 2 minutes, the red is stop.
Okay, I was just going to ask you that, because I can't really see it. I can see the colors, but that's about it. Good evening, my name is Ethelene DiBona, and I'm currently a member and the secretary of the Clinton Board of Education. I would like to thank the PTA and the Morgan Political Club for hosting this forum. I've been a member of the board for the past 6 years, and prior to that, in my other life as a young parent of 4 Clinton school children, I served 11 years from 1979 to 1991, 6 of them as chairman. As much as education and technology and children have changed in many ways over the years, I believe the requirements of being an effective board member have remained for the most part the same. Hire the best administrators we possibly can and fill the schools with a staff that meets the highest standards. Make the commitment to attend regular and subcommittee meetings. In the 17 years that I have served as a board member, I have missed only 1 meeting, and I had cancer at the time. I'm playing the cancer card. And I missed a meeting. Come prepared and ask questions. Promote communication between the school system and the community. Not only the parents, but those of us who no longer have children, but still have in the school system, but still have a financial and ethical stake in Clinton's educational system. Strive to keep the district constantly moving forward and write and support policies that are necessary to run the school system and are right for the welfare of the children in town. It's big font, so it's not going to be that long. Hers was very tiny. During my last 6 years on the board, I have held 3 critical leadership roles. I have been the chairman of the policy committee since 2010, which has reviewed more than 35 policies and regulations in that time. We are constantly upgrading policies due to legislative changes and societal influences. I am the chairman of the nutrition committee, which was formed 4.5 years ago in response to community requests for a study of healthier meals for our children. Among many other accomplishments, we have improved the lunch offerings in our schools and now offer breakfasts as well. We have gone online with Power Lunch, which connects school to home on the internet and gives families the opportunity to see what their children are eating and to pay for meals online. All of these improvements in nutrition and many more have come to pass under the supervision of John Siciliano, our food service director, whose hiring was recommended by the nutrition committee. I'm a member of the Buildings and Grounds Committee, and 4 years ago I initiated the Public Relations Committee to improve communication between the school and the committee. 2 years ago I passed the reins of the Public Relations Committee to Kim Buckley, when she was appointed to the board. I also served as the BOE representative to the Morgan Building Committee, which I consider to be a great responsibility and an honor. I believe I have shown my commitment to the Clinton school system. I have the passion, energy, and time needed to continue on the board. I have a love for our town and its children that has grown over the past 47 years that my family has lived here in Clinton. Thank you.
Those ladies are a very tough act to follow. I'm Mike Giordano. I'm also a native of Clinton. I went to the Morgan School as before my 5 kids. Even my mother went there for a while when she first came to this country. I was going for a while between medical training, medical practice, and business. Came back about 8 years ago, and it had always been a dream of mine to be on the board of ed. I cannot espouse any qualifications as being a previous teacher or having been on the board of ed. The first thing I want to say is I don't believe this is a partisan job at all, so there'll be no room for politics if I'm on the board. Clinton has a very long history of a strong school system. I don't know if a lot of people probably know that, the first president of Yale College was the pastor of the church here. Clinton was the first town in the state to actually have, about 110 years ago, to actually prep people all the way to college from a public school system, mostly from the money that had been given to town by Charles Morgan. But I came back about eight years ago, and all I hear is the school system is not what it once was, all this and that. I can't say for sure if there's any cause, but certainly you see testing scores not as good as Madison, and God, I hate Madison. Being a local, I can't get that out of my DNA. But I think we all know that the school system has room to get better. And I have a wide variety of knowledge base in medicine, law, and business, and thought that I might be able to pitch some of that on the board of ed, just to see that the CEO, who's a superintendent, is actually making sure the kids are getting a wide knowledge base, given the complexity of the global economy that's going forward. We have a new school coming, a new school, which I think is a great thing. It could be a real showpiece for us. So now we have to staff it properly, or have a curriculum that's proper, so we can attract, younger families to come to the town that want to come to the town, because one of the good reasons to come would be a great school system, like Clinton has always had in the past. And I think that's all I've got to say.
Hi, I'm Ray Moore. I've changed slightly what I was going to say, and I'll say a little tiny bit about myself at the risk of using town. I'm a new guy in town. I came to the US in 1979. I've lived in Clinton for 2 years, in Simsbury, Cambridge, a bunch of other places. So I've gone well travel. I was married in Clinton on July the 7th, 2013, 10 weeks ago. So I'm a newlywed. I have 2 children living in the UK, so I'm human with parents and things. Now, you had an introduction to the election process. I only want to add one thing, and it's really important. Please think seriously about using your votes. You can vote 4 times. Vote for your party, vote for your favourite, but you can influence the content of the board. So make 4 check marks, vote 1. But many people get confused and only vote for 1. So you can really influence the board, and we're not all competing with each other. So we hope to be working together, at least some of us. So let's say something. My decision to seek election was based on a little bit of lobbying from the local committee because they needed a candidate. A desire, a personal desire to contribute to the community in which I live. I'm a technologist, a nerd you might say. I want to see and evaluate the products and learning technology that's in use today, and I'm convinced that my skills and experience will make a difference in the quality of education. I've been trying to absorb what I can. I've met with Jack Cross, I'm going to meet with the principal, I've been talking to people. I'm trying to... Oops. So, in brief, and what colour am I? I'm not so good. Okay. My education, for what it's worth, I have a PhD in nuclear physics and was a research professor in England, working on international experiments. My career has been designing, building international and US networks. I was a general manager at IBM and Motorola and American Express, and even ran a startup. And I have very extensive experience in network design and consultancy. So I'm very familiar with the change control, the business methods needed to make a network work and to deliver applications, which I believe is directly transportable to school without the pressure of working for a big corporation. Let me go through my goals, because I thought, what would I do? I had a reality check from Jack and from several of the other people that says, hey, this is a battleship, not a kayak. You can't turn it on its head in one day, but you can steer it gently in the right direction, and that probably is the role of the board, to steer gently plus add value. I put my personal thing, I want to help Clinton to gain recognition as a top 10 school in the state. I want you to ensure that the community is aware of what happens in that school district. There's amazing ignorance despite intense efforts to communicate on what this school does. There's complaints about it, but are many and varied, and we need to make sure you know. I'm working with other schools as well at the moment to help identify the new tools and techniques that are going to make people learn faster and teach better. I think the teachers' body will welcome that assistance, not regard it as intrusion. I will, because I have to participate in the budget planning. I hope to see something which reduces the loss of students to other districts. Am I stopping? Yes. Okay, that's no problems. My handout is an exact transcript of what I said and would say, with a reference if you wanted to ask questions. So, thank you.
Good evening. My name is Ethelene Spaziano, and before I begin, I also want to thank both the PTA as well as the Morgan Political Club for inviting me here this evening. I always get excited about talking about education. My husband and I have lived in Clinton for 12 years, and our children, Nicholas and Rachel, are currently both enrolled at Joel School. I have personally been in education for 14 years. I've spent 12 years as a science teacher in Milford, both at an alternative program and at Jonathan Law High School. For the past 3 years, I've been in an administrative position as principal at the Academy in Milford. During my tenure there, I have received Teacher of the Year, Environmental Educator of the Year, as well as received well over $15,000 in grant money to fund some of my special programs and initiatives, including my award-winning environmental science curriculum, Operation Habitat. I'm confident that my teaching experience in both the comprehensive high school as well as an alternative high school, coupled with my current role as principal, make me a viable candidate for the Board of Education. And as a mother of two school-age children, I want our schools to be highly competitive, that focus on supporting the whole child in a climate of high expectations. As an educational leader, I want to be sure that we are advancing and supporting a strong curriculum while we support our faculty as they grow professionally and better their practice. And as a Clinton taxpayer, I want to ensure that our tax dollars are being spent responsibly and strategically, with a budget that prioritizes district improvement and raising student achievement. With educational reform at the heels of every school district across the nation and the state, it is imperative that Clinton have BOE members that are experienced and successful in education in order to ensure district accountability for nothing less than excellence. I say, why not have Clinton Public Schools at the top of the list, not in the top 10? I'm dedicated to collaborating with fellow board members and community stakeholders in order to support the growth of highly competitive schools that produce highly competitive career and college-ready students. I represent the voice and critical eye of the educational professional, as well as the perspective of the concerned parent. In addition to my experience in education and vested interest as a parent, I have served and dedicated a significant amount of time and effort on the New Future, New Morgan Political Action Committee, and was an integral part of the passing of our new high school. I am a member of the PTA and have been an active member of the Get the Vote Out initiative that supports the passing of both our town and education budgets. I also participated in the Best Beginnings Forum community conversations focused on the question, Clinton kids, their futures. How should we educate and support them? I appreciate your support for a position on the Clinton Board of Education, as I know you understand the imperative of having an experienced voice as well as a dedicated parent and community member on the board. Thank you.
Hi, I'm Tim Wittinger, and I believe in education first. I am a certified teacher, and I have been working in the education field for about 6 years now, mostly as a substitute teacher recently. But I believe that we owe our kids an excellent education, and we have an excellent staff in place, but I think there's areas that we need to improve. The first one is we need better vocational training for our students who can prepare them for careers in the trades. We also need to provide our teachers with a better professional development. We need to enforce the policies we have in place. We need to have the administrators back the teachers first, not the students. We need to have more parents get involved with their children's education. And finally, I believe we need to have constructive input from the educators. They're the ones in the classroom. They're the ones we need the information from. Our high school should provide education and training for a variety of careers, not just college preparation. I know as parents we think that all of our kids are college material, but we really need to prepare kids for life. And one of the possible avenues is vocational training. Machinists, carpenters, electricians, excellent career choices. So we should probably provide as much training for that as we possibly can. Teachers are required to provide a professional development plan to the administration. So these plans outline what teachers need to do. What I think we should also include is what can the district do to help with your education and your development. We have professional development days, excellent times when we can implement these trainings, software, teaching, whatever. The policies that we have in place are never, well, not never, but rarely completely enforced. And we need to enforce these and get rid of the subjective decisions that can be made. We need to put into place policies for as many contingencies as possible so decisions involving the students are no longer arbitrary. Currently, teachers are blamed first for no investigation into allegations. Students and parents are backed by the administration before teachers. This is backwards, and we really need to change this. Teachers need to have the support from the administration, not condemnation. The earlier in a child's education process parent involvement begins, the more powerful the effects. The most effective forms of parent involvement are those which engage parents in working directly with their children on learning activities at home. And then the recipe for providing a quality education starts with teachers as the main ingredient. Yet, we don't accept the teachers' input. In fact, the teachers are afraid to add input for fear of repercussions from the administration. This causes a drop in morale and subsequently a drop in the quality of education provided. We spend a great deal of time and money discussing bullying with the students, but we don't put it into practice when it comes to the teachers. Here's some excerpts from Alfie Kahn in Encouraging Educator Change. He says, "It pains me to say this, but professionals in our field often seem content to work within the constraints of traditional policies and accepted assumptions, even when they don't make sense." He continues with more information about what's going on in in education. And he concludes with, "It takes courage to stand up to absurdity when all the people around you remain comfortably seated. But if we need one more reason to do the right thing, consider this. The kids watching us are deciding how to live their lives by how we've chosen to live ours. I'd like to thank the PTA and the Morgan Political Club. Thank you.
Thank you very much, candidates. We really appreciate your overviews there. To the audience, most of you know an awful lot, because I can tell by looking at the audience, about what the Board of Education does. But I did want to provide a really brief synopsis that was provided by the Connecticut Association of Boards of Education as to the role and what the Board of Education is all about. After I do this, I'm going to ask you to finalize your questions and put them on the cards, and we'll have some folks running through the aisles to collect them so that we can prepare for the second half of the evening. So if you would take a moment to do those now, that would be great. The Board of Education, so among the many responsibilities they have, is to establish and regularly review all policies, ensuring that they are lawful and designed to improve the quality of the school district. They are charged with hiring, supporting, and working effectively with the superintendent of schools, and to conduct an annual formal evaluation of the superintendent of schools. They are requested to adopt, advocate for, and oversee a school budget which is responsive to district goals and meets the needs of all students. They are requested to communicate and interpret the school's district mission to the public and to listen and to incorporate appropriate community perspectives into their board actions. And they are requested to ensure that there is a supportive, smooth, operating leadership team which advocates for both children and the community. These are some pretty significant responsibilities, and we appreciate you all for running for Board of Education. Thank you. If anybody has any questions, would you pass them to the aisles, and we'll have some folks come through and pick them up. And then we're on to our second part of our evening. It is my pleasure to introduce Morgan Political Club, Ian Barone, again.
Thank you, candidates. We will now shift to your responses to the pre-formulated questions. Again, with no more than a 3-minute response, the order has been randomly selected this time, again starting with Mrs. Buckley. What do you see as the skills that our students need to succeed in the new global economy? How would you propose that teaching be incorporated into the classroom?
So we got to prepare these, so I'm flipping to my prepared response to the skills our students need to succeed in the global economy. In order to succeed in the global economy, students need to be technologically literate, and they need to be effective communicators who can think, read, and write critically and analytically. As I stated in my opening remarks, our world is changing faster than we can even begin to comprehend. Part of that is this new state test that requires that students take the test on a computer or a tablet. Every student has to take the test on a computer or a tablet. We need to make sure that our students are comfortable with the technology they're going to be using to take that test. That technical know-how, of course, translates to success in our increasingly technological world. State testing aside, we're preparing our young people for careers that don't even exist yet. And they like to tell teachers that a lot, that we're preparing them for things that don't even exist yet. No pressure. Regardless of their career path, our students need to be able to think, read, and write critically. We're barraged today by information, and we must teach students to recognize bias and ferret out the truth. In my classroom, for example, we study propaganda techniques and examine how technology makes it even easier to spread propaganda in today's society. We look at how language can be used to manipulate people, a skill they can use to recognize when they're being manipulated, and they can even use it to manipulate others, although we try not to emphasize that too much. We talk about tone and electronic communication, and why it's so important to be aware of how your text or tweet might be read by other people, people other than your intended audience. So all of those skills, that ability to read critically, think critically, to write well, communicate effectively, and be technologically literate, I think those are the most fundamental skills. And what we need to do is, as the Clinton Public Schools, make sure that our students, our kids, have those skills so that when they leave our schools, they can be successful in whatever future they choose.
Thank you. Mr. Winter is up next.
Any questions?
No, you have a question to what one specific contribution are you hoping to make this year, the direction our district takes, which will improve the quality of education in Clinton?
Okay. My goal would be to get parents more involved in their children's education. There was a study that was done by the Michigan Department of Education that's shown that education is improved through parental involvement, where children spend their time. School-age children spend 70% of their waking hours, including weekends and holidays, outside of school. So when should parents get involved? Well, the earlier in the child's education process the parent gets involved and begins, the more powerful the effects. The most effective forms, as I mentioned before, is when the activities are, learning activities are done at home. The impact, 86% of the general public believes that support from the parents is the most important way to improve schools. Lack of parental involvement is the biggest problem facing our public schools. And decades of research show that when parents are involved, the students have higher test grades, and higher graduation rates, better school attendance, increased motivation, better self-esteem, lower rates of suspension, decreased use of drugs and alcohol, fewer instances of violent behavior. Failing participation in education is twice as predictive of students' academic success as family socio-economic status. So the more intensive programs had effects that were 10 times greater than other factors. The more intensely parents are involved, the more beneficial to achievement effects. The more parents participate in schooling in a sustained way at every level, in advocacy, decision-making, and oversight roles as fundraisers and boosters, and volunteers, paraprofessionals, and as home teachers, the better the student achievement. Also, we need a strong school and district leadership. The strongest and most consistent predictors of parent involvement at schools and at home are specific school programs and teacher practices that encourage parent involvement and guide parents in how to help their children at home. School-initiated activities can help parents change the home environment and have strong influence on the children's performance. Parents, though, do need to have specific information on what it is needed to do to help.
Thank you. Next we have Mrs. Spaziano with question 3. What do you see as your Board of Education role in supporting the annual education budget in Clinton? Specifically, what will you do?
Okay, so I see my role in supporting the annual education budget in Clinton as twofold. The first is to be a problem solver at the table. School budgets have so much to do with building capacity within a district. In order to build capacity within a district, you need two things. First, there needs to be a readiness level in order to move forward. And I think with the board's set foundation skills and competencies, as well as the board goals, that we have that piece taken care of, and we're ready to move forward. But the second piece, in order to move forward, is that you need the resources to do so. My priority will be identifying areas within the budget that we can be more fiscally responsible for, in addition to ensuring that our administrators, teachers, and students have the necessary resources to improve student achievement. I've had experience in balancing the budget in tough economic times. I understand the difficulty with being held accountable for student achievement with less or fewer resources. As a result, I've developed a set of what I consider savvy skills around resources. A couple of years ago, I brought an idea to the board, and I'm not sure anything came from it. In my own town that I work in, Milford, we developed, we adopted a program basically through a shutdown protocol. And at the end of the day, all the school buildings shut down their computers and literally turn off their lights. Everything gets shut down. In a matter of a year, Milford Public Schools saved $250,000 in energy costs that year. $250,000. Do you know where that went? It went back to students and student achievement. So we need to be savvy with our resources. Rest assured, I would be a board member at the table, thinking critically and problem solving around these tough economic times. I understand that Mr. Cross is making improvements with regards to soliciting input from teachers and administrators in order to crucially identify strategic spending and cost-benefit analysis within the district. Those are the people who are at the heart of the spending of our money in town. Why wouldn't we solicit the input of the teachers and administrators? What programs are working? What ones are phased out? Where is the money being spent that shouldn't be? And where do we need to improve our spending? The second piece of my role as a Board of Education in supporting the budget is getting the budget passed. And those of you who know me understand me how seriously I take this. I actually take the day off of work to get our budgets passed in town. I sit at town hall and I track the people who come through town hall and vote on that day. And then I go in a room and I start calling people who haven't showed up to the polls for the day. That's how seriously I take passing our education and town budgets in Clinton. My children are in the school system. We're at bare bones already. Budgets need to pass. I'm dedicated to that. Thank you.
Thank you. Next, we will have Mr. Moore answering question one. What is your vision for education in our community, and what do you see as the most important responsibility of the Board of Education member in making that a reality?
I'll see if I handle the mic better this time. So, I think in the intro I articulated and corrected because I said Clinton should be in the top 10. Well, but top 10 and we'll work is a lot better than we are now. My life has been based on top 10. Tuning, a very, and in the end you get to be number one. And we reiterate that we have a lot to be thankful for, and we should be proud of it. Having said that, I think discussion with teachers, principals in other districts and in Clinton is very clear that the current approach to teaching and learning will not provide the results without major change and corrective action. If we just keep doing what we're doing, we'll get deeper and deeper into the hole and further behind. So, see the role of the board, a high level leadership role to make those improvements. And then the next question is, what do I think I can do to help? So on the how-to, first, let's not fall into the teaching trap of passing tests. Many of the improvements, and it's littered throughout reports, will be based on recently developed technology and the use of the internet. So, looking to give very rapid location and retrieval of information. We'll be using smart textbooks that kids can read, and the textbook will see how they're progressing and help them. And my favorite one at the moment is everybody refers to the smart board as the most wonderful thing in education. I said, hey guys, 3 years old, we fired that bullet. The next silver bullet. Let's find something new, radically new, and continue to use the smart board, but let's not ride it. Let's do something new. We're going to need a lot more participation from the teaching staff and parents. I think we heard several people from time. They're going to have to help instead of going to the ball game. We need The PTA is a good start, PTO, I'm sorry. You're going to have to come up with programs that help parents to help. We are basically fighting for success. We must be prepared to do what it takes, including learning and sharing ideas with the school districts. Schools around us are doing very innovative things. We don't need to invent them, we can steal them or borrow them. And again, I think there's exceptions to that. So, it's hard. But change is always hard work, and I think the Board of Education has to drive that change in a realistic way and make the improvements we need to make without getting too far into the mechanics of day-to-day operation. So,
Thank you. Our next question is for Mrs. DiBona, and your question is question 2. What one specific contribution are you hoping to make this year in the direction our district takes, which will improve the quality of education in Clinton?
Thank you very much. My contribution would be the same as it has been, to continue the work already started with regard to curriculum, put in place policies that address not only current ones, but those that call for unanticipated changes, such as security, cell phones, bullying, and computers in schools. Having said that, I would like to mention my unrelenting support for the less fortunate Clinton child, who, for instance, might not have a computer at home and might be at a disadvantage to another student. It is the Board of Education's job to protect and support all students equally and find ways to equitably share the funds throughout our system. This is a public school system, and we have the responsibility to prepare all of our children, no matter what their future holds, for that big world out there. Another contribution I would like to continue is that as the Board of Education representative to the Morgan Building Committee. For the past 2 years, I've had the pleasure and the responsibility of being a member of that committee. The new Morgan School, a state-of-the-art facility, will have a significant impact on the quality of education in Clinton. And I have enjoyed tremendously working on the committee and learning from the ground up the ins and outs of building a new facility. I have participated fully on the building committee. I have perfect attendance, and I have asked the questions that I believe represent the educational and community needs in the school. I have also facilitated all of the public relations for the committee, including the articles that have appeared bi-weekly in the Harbor News. I believe good communication is the key to progress in any environment, especially education, and I look forward to continuing on the committee to see the new Morgan open for the students and the town to enjoy. Thank you.
Thank you. Your question, Mr. Giordano, is number 4. What do you see as the skills that our students need to succeed in the new global economy, and how do you propose the teaching being incorporated into the classroom?
Sure. It's probably going to be a lot of the repeat of what Kim said. Reading and writing skills are probably the first and most important thing that the kids who come out of our school system need. You have to communicate no matter what you do at any level in our economy. Pretty much not second to that. About the same nowadays is math skills and computer skills. As Ray pointed out, being able to navigate on the internet, not just to surf and do Facebook, but to actually get information and to know how to use that is critical nowadays. You really can't work any job without having skills in computers. A programming language, some basic knowledge of a programming language I'm hearing more and more is very important in the business world. Personal finance, something no one ever talks about with their kids, you know. I agree with Tim, not everybody needs to go to college, and one thing that people should do when they think about sending their kid to college is what kind of debt are you going to put on this kid? later on if it's really not where he should be. Maybe the kids just should learn some personal finance because it's their future. And if they have $100,000 of college debt with a degree in sociology that they can't use, it's not helping anyone. So I think teaching kids basic personal finance is very important. Social studies should be mainly civics. At least some of their teaching should be in civics. I had to go to law school to figure out things about the Constitution. It's pretty sad, you know, going to school in my 40s to actually learn a lot about how the government's run. And it's not like I hadn't gone to a lot of other schools before that. I think that the kids should really learn about that. How does their government run? How do they get involved in the town politics? What does it mean to be a member of one party or the other, or none of the parties? I think, you see, how would I propose that the teaching be incorporated? I like these schools that use a correlative approach. I mean, I don't know how many schools at the secondary level use it, but you see it in colleges with a curriculum that's core, but all the courses are related. So in some way, they're working on a problem that might be central in the government now, and then there might be something that they write about in that. They could look at the economics of the problem. They could look at the political ramifications of the problem. And you could tie in, you know, what's the effect on business of that. Other than that, I can't pretend to be a teacher or a principal, so I can't speak that language. But I'm educated, and I have a medical degree, and I have a law degree here in about a month, and a business degree from Yale. So I certainly know about schools and fancy schools. So if I give anything to the board, it's going to be to monitor what's going on to see that kids from this town can do what I had done and go to these types of schools afterward. That's all I'm going to say.
Good evening, my name is Travis Cochran. I'm another member of the Morgan Political Club. Now we're going to shift into the questions submitted by the audience section for the evening. The questions are randomly assigned, though some are directed at specific candidates. We're going to start with a question for Mrs. Buckley. What is the role of a superintendent, and how do you see yourself as a board member standing for a decision you are not in support of?
The role of the superintendent, he is, yes, I'm sorry.
Sorry, we just wanted to clarify. Some of these questions have specific names on them, and some don't. Our intent is that with the 18 minutes left, that each of you answer 3 questions.
Okay.
So some of them are being randomly, so this question is not specifically for Mrs. Buckley, but
I just happened to go first.
you happen to go first, and you happen to be part of the few that we say that.
Can you just, it was a 2-part question, could you just read it? I want to make sure I get both first.
Yes, the question was, what is the role of our superintendent, and how do you see yourself as a board member standing for a decision you are not in support of?
Okay, that's it. The superintendent is essentially the CEO of our schools. His job is to make sure that all of the moving parts are moving the way that they're supposed to. He evaluates, supervises the evaluation of our staff, makes sure the teachers are doing what they're supposed to do in the classroom, make sure that our buildings are running properly. He manages our budget. It's an incredibly complicated job. And I see Mr. Cross in the room, and I'm sure he's laughing a little bit about how do you stand up when you disagree with a decision. It's happened quite a few times, and it's always collegial. I, like any other board member, make an appointment. I go to see Mr. Cross, or I call him on the phone, and we have a conversation, and we talk about why I disagree with a decision, or why usually it's a concern or a question. I need clarification about something. And I ask for that clarification, I express that concern. And sometimes I walk out of the room and I agree with him, and sometimes sometimes I walk out of the room and I still disagree. But usually it's handled as a conversation first before it comes in front of the whole board. The relationship that the board has with the superintendent has to be a positive working relationship. That doesn't mean that we agree all the time, but you still have to be respectful and you have to listen to one another. And sometimes Mr. Cross leaves those meetings and I like to think I convinced him that I'm right, or he sees things from my perspective. So I hope that answers both parts of the question.
Thank you. Our next question will go to Ms. DiBona. Clinton's Water Pollution Control Commission recently announced that the grounds at Elliott Middle School and Joel Elementary School are back on the table as candidates for wastewater launching fields. What is your stand on this issue?
That's an interesting question because I don't really follow the wastewater commission, and I'm not sure that I have an opinion. And I really don't have an answer for that, to be honest with you, because I don't follow that issue, and it's never come to the board level, and so I don't have an answer for you.
All right, thank you. Our next question is going to go to Mr. Moore. What do you think is the most pressing challenge facing school boards?
I didn't hear the last couple of words.
What do you think is the most pressing challenge facing school boards?
The thing that's called, I obviously have to veer towards my speciality, which is technology and its application. If I'm in the board, I'm probably going to learn some more things, but right now, and I've seen it being addressed in this town in a very positive way, it's to develop systems which set expectations for the children, make them measure their progress against those, make them accountable, and make them move forward, instead of, I didn't do well, I'm going to change subjects. I think the idea of accountability at the right level to students is a very, very important part of education, and there are experiments in place now. I think the board has to foster that so we can see that all these changes are having an effect on the kids who are accountable. And as Mike said, when they leave the school, they learn to be accountable at their level and not just leave. So at the moment, that's my cross to bear, I think, and maybe other board members have different things which hopefully I'll learn about in the future. So I don't know whether that answers the question from my perspective or not.
Thank you. The next question is going to go to Mr. Giordano. Are you prepared to take time off from your busy schedule to attend meetings that may be held between 8 to 5? Subcommittee meetings may be during work hours.
That's a great question. I thought about this a lot before running for the board. I think with advance notice, yes, I'll have, I will be able to meet that. Sometimes I travel, but most of the time I'm around. So I can take time out of my schedule to go to meetings.
Thank you. The next question is going to go to Ms. Spaziano. How do you keep up to date on emerging issues related to education policy and practice?
Well, I live it every day, so it's my reality on a daily basis. As a building principal, I am a member of both the administrative council in Milford, that is the team of principals within the town, and in that meeting we discuss different movements coming down from the state, things we need to be responsible as principals in order to hold our teachers and students accountable. And specifically, I can talk about safety. That's a big one these days. In the wake of Sandy Hook, we're charged with putting together a variety of different school climate safety committees, ensuring that our students are safe during the day. I access information on the state website frequently in order to make sure that my practice is aligning to what the state expectations are. I'm also a part of a different administrative group of professionals. That's just the district administrators. We come together on a bi-monthly basis and we engage in professional development on a variety of different issues, school safety being one of them. Another big change coming down from the state is the teacher evaluation model, the new guidelines from the state. And so I've been very involved in being sure that I'm up to date and competent in that area.
Thank you. Next question is for Mr. Wininger. What is your vision for education in our community?
My vision is that I would like to see our school system raised to the top 10. I think that's an admirable goal. I think I would like to see our students well versed in many subjects, not just a curriculum that points in one direction. I think the students need that, especially with the global economy like it is. You need to be able to diversify yourself as well as be able to move forward, both in an economical and professional manner. And I think the high school's responsibility is to, or the school system in general's responsibility is to provide that for our students.
Thank you. The next question will go back to Mrs. Buckley. Your question is, with large operating budget surpluses, can taxpayers expect the Board of Education to flare the operating budget to the state minimum budget requirement?
I'm not sure. I know that the numbers themselves with the budget surpluses, the number is a large number because the budget is a large budget. But the surpluses have been 1 to 2%. Over the past several years. And if you think about your household budget and what a budget is an estimate. And in your household, if you came within 1% or 2% of your estimated expenses, I think you'd be pretty proud of yourself. And I am proud of the work that the board has done before I joined the board and the work that the board has done since I joined the board. I think we've kept a careful eye on cost-cutting measures. I know Mr. Cross and Mrs. O'Donnell and all of the administrators in the district have. In terms of reducing the spending to the minimum budget requirement, the minimum budget requirement is exactly that. It is a minimum budget requirement. And that was set by the state. I did some research when it all started, that MBR started getting thrown around, because I wanted to understand what it was, to make sure I was informed about the issue so that I could speak to it in an educated manner. And the research I did when I contacted the state, the minimum budget requirement was established to keep districts from underfunding their schools. The risk we run if we go toward a minimum budget requirement as our baseline is that, or as our goal, is that we're not looking at what our schools need. We're not listening to our administrators. We're not listening to our teachers. We're not listening to the experts who are in the classroom every day telling us what our kids need to succeed. And if our administrators and our teachers come to us and say, this is what we need and we can function at the minimum budget requirement level and our kids will be successful in whatever field they choose, then sure, that's where we'll put the funding. But if they're coming to us and they are and saying we have contractual obligations we have to meet and we have these needs we have to take care of our kids and make sure that they're successful, make sure they're getting all of the tools they need in our world to succeed and to be a top 10 or a #1 school, then that's where the funding needs to be. The funding needs to be where the teachers and the administrators demonstrate it needs to be.
Thank you. The next question will be for Mrs. DiBona. How do you see the full implementation of the Common Core and subsequent SBAC testing impacting curriculum and technology in our schools?
Well, the plan for Common Core is to prepare our students in the English and language arts and math skills for their future, whether they're going to college or for a career. And I believe that we've been doing that all along, and that we are striving to put together a curriculum which we have been working. Our curriculum is very strong in our town, and Mrs. O'Donnell, in fact, is our assistant superintendent, has brought together teachers and administrators to put together curriculum that is totally sound as far as all of our topics, all of our subjects. In the particular case of English and language arts, we have already put together a curriculum, and we work every day to improve the curriculum. It's K-12, which is very impressive. I remember when my children were in school, and they would go from 4th grade to 5th grade, and there would be a gap there, and they wouldn't necessarily, because of the teacher that they had, for instance, if they were really good at math and they did well with the teacher in 4th grade who taught a lot of math, they were ahead of the other kids who were in another class who didn't get so much math. And so now, with the curriculum being K-12, I think that we have a really good plan in place, and I believe there are only 2 curriculums left that need to be finished, but in the past 4 years, we've been working very hard, and those curriculums are going to be planned around the Common Core, obviously, and we plan to move forward and do better every day.
Thank you. Next question is for Mr. Giordano. What role do you think a member of the Board of Education has in guiding the direction of curriculum and teaching style / philosophy?
I went to a board, it was sort of a meeting just to let the candidates know what the board might be about. And with all due respect, I was basically told that the board doesn't have much role in that type of thing. I disagree with that. And if I am wrong, I should be corrected. But I think the board should have a lot to say to the CEO, if that's who they hire, about what goes on. And I think it's incumbent upon the town to elect board members that can understand complex issues as far as different subjects go. Not necessarily always a person who's a teacher, but people that actually understand different subjects. And they can just ask pointed questions. And even if it isn't our official role, you can still hold people's feet to the fire. So I believe a board member should be involved with the curriculum and the philosophy of how things are taught. It's like everyone's mentioned here, math skills, reading skills. So that's it.
Thank you. Next question is for Mr. Moore. If cuts needed to be made to the budget, where would you look first to cut?
Ask it again, one more time.
If cuts needed to be made to the budget, where would you look first to cut?
Well, I'm going to say one thing from this position, that there are a number of existing board members and a very long history of budget, and I've looked at the budget and there's a lot of line items. From my perspective, having learned to look at large systems, I'm going to start with the big line items and go a little deeper than you might expect. The biggest line item is always going to be salaries and basic compensation and the school. And I will not say any one of them should be cut. I would say that my mantra for teaching is improve the efficiency of the teachers, improve the learning mechanism, get more for your buck. It may result in a reduction in budget, but I don't want to go into the board on the day that 4 new members arrive on the board and declare that the work that's been done previously is invalid. We're about to enter the budget cycle. It's very clear the board are going to look at the big numbers, see where the big money is being spent and make sure it's being spent efficiently. There are large programs in place for energy reduction, there are cost-cutting programs which have been very successful. There may be more, but I'm too far from the detail at this point. And the same question goes for Michael. We're going to have to learn fast and quickly to be able to add value without dismissing what's gone. We have Kim and some of the existing board members that have been through this many, many times, and they're going to teach us, hopefully in a fair way. So, cost reduction on the big line items. The new school is coming soon, and there are so many uncertainties in that plan, and we really don't know at this point. I like the term that the budget is an estimate. There are many line items in the budget which are estimates, and during the year, money is moved around. And that's one of the role of the board, to move money from place to place and apply it where it makes most sense. So I'm not a budget cutter, I'm a budget optimizer, I think, and I hope the board will take that attitude as we go into the budget cycle.
Thank you. Next question will be for Mrs. Spadiano. What would you support as current or future parent engagement strategies to strengthen the parent-school community partnerships?
Well, there's a lot of ways to get parents involved, and at a lot of different levels. And so I think opening up the school buildings for parent involvement, allowing parents to come in and volunteer in the classrooms at the lower grade levels is a great way to get parents involved. The same token, it helps teachers. Teachers today more than ever are so busy. The expectations for teachers continue to rise. And so the help that parents could bring into the classroom with regards to student support, even making copies, whatever it might be, I'm sure would be beneficial both to the teacher and the parent. At the high school level, sometimes it gets difficult. Teenagers don't want their parents involved. I can speak from that from a personal perspective. And so if we can look at a community issue that we can come around, not that, and have students and parents approach a community issue together, rather than it being, parents coming in, more of an intimidating factor. But I take the New Morgan initiative a couple of years ago. I really saw a lot of parents and children coming together, high school kids coming together around a community issue that was meaningful to both. And so I feel as though as students get older, you need to be a little bit more strategic on how you get parents involved in their child's education. Thank you.
Thank you. This next question is for Mr. Wininger. According to the budget documents on the Board of Education website, in the 2013-2014 school year, it is anticipated that Clinton will spend $986,014 in tuition and $620,133 for transportation, for a total of over $1.6 million for out-of-district special education placement to fulfill the need of 19 students. Yet a mere $5,850 was allocated to our talented and gifted students. Clinton is held to state laws to provide these services to our special education students. In contrast, no laws are in place for the talented and gifted students. It is up to each district to decide their level of commitment to the bright students. With this in mind, as a new candidate for the Board of Education, what do you feel would be an appropriate commitment from Clinton to its talented and gifted students? Can you offer any ideas on how you would propose to better serve our brightest students?
I think that quite often the gifted students are the ones that are neglected. When we have classes that are mixed with lower to upper level students, what happens is the higher gifted students don't get the education that they really deserve. And that happens just because of having the mix in the classes. I think one of the things that we can do, I realize, and this is difficult, as a teacher I found this difficult as well, differentiate within the class is a very difficult prospect, especially when you have such a wide variety of learning skills and capabilities. So perhaps we can set aside time for the gifted students to do extra projects or perhaps even mentoring, because one way to learn a subject is teach it, as the teachers here will tell you. So that would be another possibility to help the gifted students to further their education. It is a problem, and I think it's something that it's not an easy solution, but I think there are solutions to it, and there may be a few there.
Thank you. That is the end of the questions from the audience. Thank you again for your answers. Now we'll be moving into the closing statements.
Hello. On behalf of the Morgan Political Club and the Clinton PTA, thank you for attending tonight's education forum. It is our belief that opportunities such as this provide the very lifeblood of our democracy, where citizens can meet in a civil setting to discuss issues of great importance, most notably education. A special thanks to the candidates for their dedication to this community and their commitment to public education. We hope that you can now at least consider your voting options for November 5th. Clinton's candidates for Board of Education all seem to wish the best for our children, however varied their approaches. Education is a complicated and emotionally charged issue. Thankfully, we have witnessed one component of democracy that works in Clinton: civil and transparent discourse. As for the Morgan Political Club, we are a non-partisan organization started in 2005 as a place where students can meet and discuss political issues on the local, state, federal, and international level. We also host a weekly guest speaker forum where activists, elected officials, and informed citizens address the public in hopes of initiating student interest in topics and issues of note. As for you, the voted public, your attendance here shows that you still care about and value the importance of an informed citizenry. It's imperative that the public knows and cares about issues that affect us all, including public education, which truly does affect all of us. While government and public institutions can be complex and cause many to become disillusioned, we at the Morgan Political Club believe that democracy at its very core is worth defending and supporting. As Thomas Jefferson said in 1789, wherever the people are well informed, they can be trusted with their own government. Let's continue to be well informed. A reminder that literature from each candidate has been provided just outside the door. Audience members are encouraged to take one. Thank you.
Thank you, candidates. Thank you, everybody. That concludes our evening.